Let's talk about it, Boulder.
We don't have to do anything. We're going to outwork them. We're going to out-recruit them. We're going to out-scout them.
And the Buffs have been busy over the last couple of weeks getting not one, not two, not three, but 4 commitments over the last 2 weeks, with the latest one being this evening. Xavier Payne, offensive lineman, the first offensive lineman to commit to the Buffs for this class. That gives 6 total players that have committed to the Buffs over this 2026 class. So let's dive into Xavier Payne. We'll also talk about Kobe Johnson and go from there here on the Prime Time for College Football. Thank y'all for pulling up. Your boy Jay. Been out a little bit, fighting some health, but hey, we're back and we're going to make something happen. So want to talk about the latest pickup as things have been quiet for the Buffs, but they, like I said, the last 2 weeks, they brought in some. You got Preston Ashley, you brought in Maurice Williams, the 2 corners. Those are your 2 corners on the 24th and 25th of June. Then on the 1st, Kobe Johnson, the linebacker, comes in. And then you wrap things up now right before the Big 12 Media Days. Xavier Payne out of Florida decides to commit to the Buffs. So let's take a look at his measurables and watch a little film, talk about Xavier Payne and what he does for the Buffs. Now, if you've been keeping up with it, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Xavier Payne, 3-star lineman out of Jones High School, Orlando, Florida. I see him actually listed, and also Miami. So Jones will go out of that right now, is what all of the sites have him. He's actually listed at 6'7", 320 pounds. Man, so he's a big boy. He was previously committed to Florida State. So Coach Prime's out there snatching the chain of his old stomping grounds. But Xavier did a visit. He decommitted from Florida State, did a visit at Colorado and decommitted while he was there. And it was very interesting. And Hayes Fawcett posted up a tweet that the Buffs had something coming. And we were wondering, is it going to be Xavier Payne? Because it was right around that time when you got the decommitment. But it didn't end up that way. So it's okay. So it wasn't him. Then you start to see a few others drop. Like, say, you said Preston Ashley. You saw Maurice Williams, right? So when you looked at the class, you started to see all these other people committing. And then Kobe Johnson comes out of nowhere, out of Washington. You're like, oh, okay. So it wasn't Xavier. So I guess Xavier may not be coming through. Well, boom. Here it is, 7'7". You get Xavier Payne. And I like his tape. One thing about him, though, he comes in at 6'7", 320 pounds. So, of course, he's a big boy. He gives you some nice leverage. And so, especially playing down there in Florida, I was watching some tape of him. He was going up against the 5-star that Colorado's also pursuing, Jake Krell. And he held his own against Jake. And so you got to see him with some good movement and especially going up against a slippery dude, as Jake the Snake calls himself. You saw Xavier holding his own at the camp. And that's what you want. A dude that can hold his own regardless of his star ranking, someone that can hold his own in situations like that. But Xavier's got himself a nice little list of offers. And, of course, he's got the Florida schools. He basically got all 4 of the big ones, 5 if you include FIU, 6 and 7 if you want to conclude Florida Atlantic as well as USF. But he also got some good ones. Got West Virginia, Nebraska, who's known for having good lines. Ole Miss and Arkansas, Tennessee with Florida. So you got some SEC schools. Penn State was after him with Miami, as well as the final school that lasted on the list with Colorado was Syracuse. So they were the ones in the battle and in the driver's seat going after Xavier Payne. And the Buffs ended up winning out. And it makes sense. When I was reading one of the interviews he did with Rivals, he's talking to John Garcia about his visit with Colorado and kind of his feelings about everything. And, of course, he had a blast. It was great. He had fun, the thing that jumped out to him most was not only that there was a whole bunch of staff members with NFL experience, which is really the major selling point there at Colorado. He also talked about his relationship with Jordan Seaton, said they're pretty close. They watch tape together. And it sounds like he's helping with, teaching Xavier what they do and how he can do things better, etc., so on, which is really huge for a player of Jordan Seaton's caliber to be basically a mentor to one of the recruits. I love hearing that. That's some maturity for your boy right there. And from there, the tape itself, actually pretty darn good. I like what I see out of him, especially at his size. Still can move well. And, Mr. Pancakes, he not letting nobody buy him. Small, tall, big, little. He's not going to let people just go right past him easily. And that's what you kind of see in the tape with him, is he finds a way to make sure that he's getting his hands on people and he ain't allowing his quarterback to get lit up. And so he's protecting his side the way you're supposed to protect it, which, that's really all you can do. He's doing his job, especially around some of those agile players you're going to go up against in Florida because, Florida's known for producing some players. Coach Prime being from Florida, he definitely does focus on the talent down there. Here we are. Buffs land themselves a nice one. Let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Want to hear y'all's thoughts. Didn't really talk about Kobe Johnson, but I wanted to point that out. Another nice little 3-star linebacker out of Eastlake High School in, Sammamish, Washington. 6'2", 195. Nice linebacker. And the Buffs are starting to build it. They're starting to get the class going. But I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't think they're going to have that many when it comes to the high school rank. I think that Prime is going to continue to focus on everything in the transfer portal. He wants guys with a little bit more experience and ones that are really ready to come work with NFL experienced coaches. So I don't see that that's a bad thing. Now, it's going to be a very interesting concept, and we're going to see how it works. Last year, we saw success, but I'm going to say this. He had his son, Shedeur Sanders, throwing the ball. So when you bring in a quarterback, that works easily. Now, Caden Salter as well as Juju Lewis are battling it out. Let's see what the Buffs turn into after that. So let me know what y'all think in the comments. What do you think the Buffs going to look like going forward? I've been reading up on them, some of the preview books, and there's a couple of them that's been got a little bit more optimistic on the Buffs more than I expected. Got a few that's kind of like, I don't know. But we'll break that down here as the media days come on. We should drop a video probably tomorrow kind of talking about some of the previews from some of these big old preview magazines that I've been reading on, because like I said, some of them actually see a path for the Buffs to move forward, and a lot of them actually believe the Buffs have more depth now than they had before. The question is the talent there to go with it and to be successful in the Big 12 this year? Big 12 is kind of wide open, top heavy, but still wide open. So we'll talk about that here in the next couple of days. So make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification so you don't miss a video. All right. We'll also dive deeper into Colorado's recruiting. Talked to my boy Dukes not too long ago. Follow him, Dukes the Scoop, here on YouTube. We chopped it up a bit on his channel last week. And there's some questions that are out there, but I don't think that the Buffs are going to have as many problems as people are thinking. So we'll dive into that a little bit more as well a little later. But shout out to Xavier Payne, the 6th commitment to the Colorado Buffs for this cycle. Kobe Johnson, the 5th. And down to Maurice Williams, as well as Preston Ashley. So we talked about Preston here on the channel. You can check out that video as well. And we'll chop it up soon.